The mining colony of Redstone Basin sat in a valley where three mountain ranges met like giant fingers closing around a precious stone. Diesel pumps hummed their constant song while cargo haulers rumbled along dusty roads carved into ancient rock. The settlement held 2,000 souls who had come seeking fortune in the mineral-rich earth, though most found only hard work and modest wages. Cassandra Moore wiped grease from her hands and studied the broken drill bit with tired eyes. 23 years old and already the lead mechanic for Sector 7, she had earned her position through pure skill and stubborn determination. Her dark hair hung in a practical braid down her back, and her overalls bore the stains of 100 repairs. She had grown up in these mountains after her parents brought her here as a child, and the colony felt more like home than any city ever could. The afternoon shift was ending when the sky began to change. Cassandra noticed it first because she was outside replacing hydraulic lines on a hauler. The clouds turned strange colors, shifting from gray to purple to a deep crimson that reminded her of fresh blood. Other workers stopped their tasks and looked up with growing concern. "Storm coming," old Henrik called from the loading dock. The weathered supervisor had worked these mines for 40 years and claimed he could smell trouble before it arrived. But this was no ordinary storm. The clouds began rotating in patterns that defied natural law, forming spirals within spirals. Lightning crackled between them in colors Cassandra had never seen before, blues and greens and whites that hurt to look at directly. The temperature dropped 15 degrees in as many seconds. "Everyone inside," Henrik shouted, his voice carrying authority born from decades of keeping people safe. "Secure the equipment and get to shelter." Cassandra hurried to finish her work, tightening the last connection before the storm hit. She was reaching for her tool bag when something massive tore through the clouds above. It fell like a burning meteor, trailing fire and smoke as it plummeted toward the mountains. The object was shaped wrong for a ship or satellite, and as it tumbled through the air, Cassandra caught glimpses of wings and scales. The creature crashed into the northern ridge with an impact that shook the entire valley. Rocks tumbled down mountainsides and alarm sirens began wailing across the colony. Workers scrambled for shelter while security teams grabbed weapons and headed toward the crash site. Cassandra made a split-second decision that would change everything. Instead of following the others to safety, she grabbed her medical kit from the hauler and ran toward her personal rover. The vehicle was old and temperamental, but she had rebuilt the engine herself and knew every quirk it possessed. She fired it up and headed for the mountain road, ignoring the shouts from Henrik and the other workers. The drive took 20 minutes of hard climbing along paths barely wide enough for the rover. Cassandra had explored these mountains since childhood, and knew routes the security teams would take hours to navigate. She reached the crash site first and stopped her rover behind a boulder formation. The creature lay in a crater of shattered stone and scorched earth. Cassandra had seen pictures of the Drakari in news reports and mining briefings. The dragon people, humans called them, though that term barely captured their majesty. This one was female, easily 14 feet from nose to tail with scales that gleamed like rubies even covered in ash and blood. Her wings stretched at broken angles, membranes torn and burned. Deep wounds marked her body where weapons had found their mark. The Drakar's eyes opened as Cassandra approached. They glowed with inner fire, golden and fierce despite the pain that must have been overwhelming. The dragon woman tried to rise, her body responding with trembling effort before collapsing again. A sound emerged from her throat, something between a growl and a cry of frustration. Cassandra held up her hands, showing they were empty of weapons. "Easy there," she said softly, using the same calm tone she used with frightened animals. "I want to help." The Drakar woman watched her with obvious suspicion. Dragons were known throughout the settled systems as proud warriors who rarely accepted help from anyone, especially not from humans they considered technologically dependent and physically weak. But pain and blood loss were universal languages, and survival instinct sometimes overruled pride. "My name is Cassandra," she continued, taking one careful step closer. "I'm a mechanic, not a soldier. I fix things that are broken, and you look pretty broken right now." The dragon woman made another sound, this one softer. Her head lowered slightly to the ground, golden eyes never leaving Cassandra's face. It was not quite trust, but perhaps the beginning of acceptance. Cassandra knelt beside the massive form and opened her medical kit. She had supplies for treating human injuries, which would have to do. The fundamentals were the same across species. Stop the bleeding, clean the wounds, prevent infection. She began with the worst injury, a deep gash across the dragon's shoulder where something had cut through scales and muscle. The Vraker flinched at the first touch but did not pull away. Cassandra worked with steady hands, cleaning and bandaging with practiced efficiency. The dragon's blood was darker than human blood and felt warmer against her fingers, but it responded to the same treatments. She wrapped torn wing membranes as gently as possible, knowing how delicate they must be. Time blurred as Cassandra focused entirely on her patient. The storm continued overhead, rain beginning to fall in heavy drops that hissed against hot metal and stone. In the distance, she could hear engines and voices as the security teams made their way up the mountain paths. "They're coming," Cassandra said quietly. "The authorities. They'll want to take you somewhere, study you, maybe lock you up. I don't think you'd like that very much." The dragon woman's eyes widened with understanding even though she could not speak the human language. Her muscles tensed as if preparing for another fight her body could not win. Cassandra made her decision. "I have a place. An old mining shaft my family used to work. It's abandoned now, hidden away where nobody goes anymore. Big enough for you, private enough to keep you safe while you heal." She had no idea if the dragon understood her words, but she understood the look in those golden eyes. It was the same look she had seen in her own mirror after her father died in a mining accident 3 years ago, when she had to decide whether to give up or keep fighting. It was the look of someone who needed help but did not know how to ask for it. "Come on," Cassandra said, standing and gesturing toward her rover. "We don't have much time before they get here. Can you move at all?" The Vraker woman pushed herself up with visible effort. She managed to stand on shaking legs, her damaged wings dragging against the ground. Blood dripped from her wounds despite the bandages, but pride kept her upright. She looked at Cassandra with an expression that might have been gratitude or might have been calculation. Either way, she took one stumbling step forward, then another. Cassandra guided her toward the rover, wondering what in the world she had just gotten herself into. Behind them, the voices of the security teams grew louder against the storm. Building bridges, Elena returned to the mine every morning before dawn, carrying supplies in her truck. She told the settlement residents that she was cataloging old equipment for possible salvage. Nobody questioned her routine. Miners understood the value of hard work and privacy. The dragon warrior healed faster than Elena expected. By the 3rd day, it could lift its head without trembling. By the 5th day, it sat upright, watching Elena with those piercing amber eyes as she changed bandages and brought food. Finding the right food had been a challenge. Elena started with raw meat from the settlement's food stores, claiming she was dealing with predators near her property. The dragon ate cautiously at first, always watching her, but soon devoured everything she brought. Communication remained impossible. Elena talked constantly while working, hoping her tone would convey peaceful intentions. The dragon listened, its head tilting occasionally as if trying to understand. Sometimes it made sounds in response, deep rumbles and sharp clicks that carried obvious meaning, but Elena could not decipher them. On the 8th day, Elena arrived with something different. She had salvaged an old translation device from the settlement's recycling depot. The technology was outdated, designed decades ago for basic trade negotiations with alien visitors. She had spent 2 nights repairing its circuits and updating its language databases. She activated the device and placed it between herself and the dragon. "Can you understand this?" she said clearly. The machine hummed and produced a series of clicks, whistles, and low-frequency pulses. The dragon's eyes widened dramatically. It leaned forward, nostrils flaring, and responded with its own complex series of sounds. The translator crackled to life with halting English words. "You speak? How small creatures speak." Elena felt triumph surge through her chest. "This machine translates. I'm Elena, what's your name?" The dragon's response came through the device. "I am Draeven, warrior of the Skyfire Clan. You saved Draeven." "Why?" "Because you needed help," Elena said simply. "I couldn't leave you dying in that crater." Draeven made a sound that the translator struggled to interpret. "Humans are prey species, weak, fragile. This is known truth. Yet you pulled Draeven from death." Elena bristled at the word prey but kept her voice calm. "Maybe we're not as weak as you think. Different doesn't mean inferior." Over the following days, their conversations grew longer and more complex. The translator improved as it learned their speech patterns. Draeven explained that he had been part of a reconnaissance mission along the frontier. His squadron had encountered a Kethran battle group, a hostile empire known for taking no prisoners. The fight was fierce, Draven said one evening, his translated voice carrying weight. My wingmates fell one by one. I destroyed 3 Kethrin fighters before my ship took critical damage. I barely escaped in an emergency pod. The pod failed during atmospheric entry. Your people didn't come looking for you? Elena asked while checking Draven's wing joints. The membranes were healing but remained too damaged for flight. In battle, the wounded are left behind, Draven said matter-of-factly. They slow the living. It is the way of warriors. Only the strong survive to fight again. Elena stopped working and looked directly into Draven's eyes. That's horrible. What kind of society abandons its own people? A strong one, Draven replied, but his tone suggested uncertainty. Your kind does differently. Yes, Elena said firmly. We learned the hard way that strength isn't just about physical power. Real strength is protecting each other, helping the wounded, building something together that lasts. My grandfather fought in the colony wars. He always said the soldiers who survived weren't the strongest fighters. They were the ones who never left anyone behind. Draven fell silent, processing this information. After a long moment, he spoke again. You lost someone. I see sadness in your movements, hear it in your voice. Who? Elena was surprised by the perceptiveness. She sat down on a supply crate, suddenly tired. My father. He died in a mining accident 3 years ago. A tunnel collapse. His friends risked everything to dig him out, but they were too late. They brought his body home anyway so we could say goodbye properly. They risked death for one already dead? Draven asked. They risked death because he was family, Elena corrected. Because leaving him buried in the dark was unthinkable. That's what we do. We take care of each other. Draven shifted his weight. A gesture Elena had learned meant deep thought. My clutch brother fell in my first battle. I was ordered to leave his body and continue fighting. I obeyed. This brought me honor. But sometimes, in quiet moments, I remember his last sounds. I wonder if honor was worth the cost. Elena moved closer and carefully placed her hand on Draven's scaled forearm. The dragon flinched but did not pull away. Maybe it's not too late to learn a different way. You are strange, Elena Rodriguez, Draven said, and the translator caught something that might have been affection in his tone. Soft exterior but hard interior. Like stone covered in moss, Elena laughed. I've been called worse. Come on, let's work on your mobility. Those wings won't strengthen themselves. They spent the next hour doing careful exercises. Draven stretched his wings slowly, wincing as healing muscles protested. Elena supported the damaged sections, taking weight off the injured joints. The dragon warrior accepted her help without complaint, a gesture that would have been unthinkable weeks earlier. As Elena prepared to leave that evening, Draven called out, Elena, when I am healed, I must return to my people. They will ask where I was, how I survived. What will you tell them? Elena asked. Draven looked at her for a long moment. I do not know yet. Truth may bring shame. Least taste bitter. Your kind has given me much to consider. Elena smiled. Take your time figuring it out. Wisdom isn't about having quick answers. It's about asking the right questions. She left Draven in the mine as the sun set behind the canyon walls. The dragon warrior watched her go, his amber eyes reflecting the fading light. Something had shifted between them. Trust had taken root where only fear should exist. Neither of them knew that their carefully hidden secret was about to be exposed. Forces beyond their control were already moving, and the peaceful isolation they had built was about to shatter. A strong one, Draven replied, but his tone suggested uncertainty. Your kind does differently? Yes, Elena said firmly. We learned the hard way that strength isn't just about physical power. Real strength is protecting each other, helping the wounded, building something together that lasts. My grandfather fought in the colony wars. He always said the soldiers who survived weren't the strongest fighters. They were the ones who never left anyone behind. Draven fell silent, processing this information. After a long moment, he spoke again. You lost someone. I see sadness in your movements, hear it in your voice. Who? Elena was surprised by the perceptiveness. She sat down on a supply crate, suddenly tired. My father. He died in a mining accident 3 years ago. A tunnel collapse. His friends risked everything to dig him out, but they were too late. They brought his body home anyway, so we could say goodbye properly. They risked death for one already dead, Draven asked. They risked death because he was family, Elena corrected. Because leaving him buried in the dark was unthinkable. That's what we do. We take care of each other. Draeven shifted his weight, a gesture Elena had learned meant deep thought. My clutch brother fell in my first battle. I was ordered to leave his body and continue fighting. I obeyed. This brought me honor. But sometimes in quiet moments I remember his last sounds. I wonder if honor was worth the cost. Elena moved closer and carefully placed her hand on Draeven's scaled forearm. The dragon flinched but did not pull away. Maybe it's not too late to learn a different way. You are strange, Elena Rodriguez, Draeven said, and the translator caught something that might have been affection in his tone. Soft exterior but hard interior. Like stone covered in moss, Elena laughed. I've been called worse. Come on, let's work on your mobility. Those wings won't strengthen themselves. They spent the next hour doing careful exercises. Draeven stretched his wings slowly, wincing as healing muscles protested. Elena supported the damaged sections, taking weight off the injured joints. The dragon warrior accepted her help without complaint, a gesture that would have been unthinkable weeks earlier. As Elena prepared to leave that evening, Draeven called out, Elena, when I am healed, I must return to my people. They will ask where I was, how I survived. What will you tell them? Elena asked. Draeven looked at her for a long moment. I do not know yet. Truth may bring shame, least taste bitter. Your kind has given me much to consider. Elena smiled. Take your time figuring it out. Wisdom isn't about having quick answers. It's about asking the right questions. She left Draeven in the mine as the sun set behind the canyon walls. The dragon warrior watched her go, his amber eyes reflecting the fading light. Something had shifted between them. Trust had taken root where only fear should exist. Neither of them knew that their carefully hidden secret was about to be exposed. Forces beyond their control were already moving, and the peaceful isolation they had built was about to shatter. Part 3. When Worlds Collide, 100 Words. The Unwanted Visitors. 3 weeks after the crash, military vessels appeared over Redstone Valley. Elena spotted them while making her morning supply run to the mine. Thick ships hung in the atmosphere like metal clouds, their hulls bearing both human colonial markings and unfamiliar symbols she did not recognize. Her heart dropped into her stomach. She knew what this meant. Elena reached the mine and found Draeven already alert. His head raised toward the ceiling as if he could sense the ships above. Your people have come, he said through the translator. And mine as well. The symbols on those vessels include Drakari military designations. How can you tell from down here? Elena asked. I feel them, Draeven said simply. Dragons sense electromagnetic signatures. Those ships burn bright to my senses. Elena paced the mine chamber, her mind racing. We can hide you deeper in the tunnels. These mines run for miles. They'll never find you. No. Draeven rose to his full height, his wings spreading partially. They still could not support flight, but they no longer hung limp and broken. Running brings only temporary safety. Truth comes eventually. Better to face it with dignity. They'll take you away, Elena protested. Your people will punish you for being helped by humans. Mine will lock you up for study or worse. Perhaps, Draeven agreed. But you taught me something, Elena Rodriguez. You taught me that some things matter more than survival. Honor is not just about victory. It is about standing by those who stood by you. Before Elena could respond, voices echoed from the mine entrance. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness. A squad of colonial security officers entered the chamber, weapons raised. Behind them came 2 Drakari warriors, their scales gleaming gold and crimson in the artificial light. Captain Foster, the settlement's security chief, stepped forward. His weapon pointed directly at Draeven. Step away from the dragon, Elena. Slowly. Elena moved in front of Draeven instead, her arms spread wide. No, he's not a threat. He's injured and recovering. One of the Drakari warriors spoke, its voice a deep rumble. A translation device on Foster's belt converted the words. The human sheltered you, Draeven of Skyfire. You accepted help from a lesser species? Lesser. Draeven's voice rose, amplified by Elena's translator. This human showed more courage than any warrior I have known. She risked everything to save a stranger. She asked nothing in return. Her strength is different than ours, but it is real. The golden-scaled Drakari stepped closer, and Elena recognized authority in its bearing. I am Commander Serax. We have searched for you, Draeven. Your loss brought shame to our clan. Now you bring more shame by accepting human charity. Then shame me, Draeven said defiantly. Elena Rodriguez saved my life when my own people left me to die. If that brings dishonor, then honor itself is broken. The mind chamber fell silent. Elena could hear her own heartbeat thundering in her ears. Captain Foster lowered his weapon slightly, confusion crossing his face. The second Drakari warrior shifted its stance, clearly uncomfortable. Commander Serac stared at Draeven for a long moment. Then slowly the commander turned to Elena. You saved a warrior's life, expecting no reward? I expected basic decency, Elena said, finding her voice. Helping someone who's hurt isn't about reward. It's about being a decent person. Humans are weak, Serac said, but the statement sounded more like a question now. Humans are stubborn, Elena corrected. We survive because we help each other. We build communities. We don't abandon our wounded. Maybe that makes us weak in your eyes, but it's kept us alive for thousands of years. Serac made a sound that the translator could not interpret. The commander turned back to Draeven. You have changed, young warrior. I hear it in your words. See it in how you stand beside this human. She changed me, Draeven acknowledged. She showed me that strength has many forms. That mercy is not weakness. That perhaps the old ways are not the only ways. Captain Foster finally spoke up. What happens now? We have protocols for situations like this. Protocols that serve fear, not wisdom, Draeven said. He looked at Elena. Tell them what you told me. About your grandfather. About bringing him home. Elena swallowed hard and addressed both groups. 3 years ago, my father died in a mining accident. His friends risked their lives digging through unstable tunnels to recover his body, not because it would bring him back. Because family doesn't leave family behind. That's who we are. That's what makes us human. She turned to Commander Serac. And maybe it's time both our species learned from each other instead of just judging each other. The silence stretched. Then the second Drakari warrior spoke for the first time. Commander, I was at the Battle of Crimson Nebula. I saw humans fight alongside us against the Kethran horde. They held their positions when retreat would have been logical. Many died protecting our flank. Perhaps this human speaks truth. Commander Serac's scales rippled, a gesture Elena could not interpret. Draeven, you will return with us. Your wings need proper medical treatment, but you will not face punishment. Instead, you will teach others what you have learned here. The commander turned to Elena. And you, Elena Rodriguez, have earned something rare. The respect of the Skyfire Clan. When dragons give their word, it is eternal. If you ever need aid, call for the Skyfire and we will answer. Captain Foster holstered his weapon. I'll need to file a report, but I'll recommend no charges. You did what any good colonist would do. You helped someone in need. Elena felt tears threatening but held them back. She looked at Draeven. Will I see you again? Yes, Draeven said with certainty. Dragons remember debts, and you, Elena, are more than a debt. You are what humans call a friend. We will meet again. The Drakari warriors helped Draeven toward the mine entrance. He moved slowly, still healing, but he walked with dignity. At the threshold, he turned back to look at Elena one final time. Their eyes met across the distance. No words were needed. They had changed each other, proven that understanding could bridge even the widest gaps between species. As the ships departed hours later, Elena stood outside her cantina, watching the sky. The sunset painted the canyon walls in familiar colors, but the world felt different now. Bigger, full of possibility. Somewhere above, a dragon warrior carried her story to the stars. And perhaps, just perhaps, that story would change more than just 2 lives. Perhaps it would change how entire civilizations saw each other. The desert wind blew warm across Redstone Valley. Elena smiled and went back inside. She had work to do, and tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight she had proven something important. Kindness was never wasted. And bridges, once built, could carry traffic in both directions. The end was really just a beginning.